I cleaned up these wing roots. I put the clamps back on for this crossover vent tube for the fuel line. That has a clamp in there on the tube that goes across here, and then a cushion clamp on the outside. This yellow one is fuel proof clamp, but it shouldn't make any difference because there should never be any fuel going down that thing. Then I've got my wire bundle here that goes back to the ELT, and I put a couple clamps on it to hold it in here. I've got the cutouts in the fabric made for the buzzer and the annunciator, and then I just tied these up here with a cable clamp or a tie wrap just to get them up out of the way so they're not flopping around while we're working on this. And I stuck that right hand wing root cover on, got it all tied in. That still has to be screwed in along the bottom there, along the top of that door, but there'll be trim window weather stripping go in there. I did the same thing over on this side. This is a little busier on this side because we've got the wires going for the headsets for both the front and the rear, and then an antenna. That's the antenna for the marine radio there. Push to talk switch back there for the back seat, and then up here are the wires that go out into the wing root itself. The lines for the pitot-static system, the landing light, nav light, and then of course the GPS antenna. So I did the same thing here. I put a couple cable clamps over on this side, tied into that tube. Same thing with the vent line. Got those nice and neat. And I got cutouts in here made for the headset jacks. This will be the forward headset jack and the aft headset jack. I still have to kind of figure out where I'm going to do with the push to talk switch for the back seat. So I put that Kydex wing root cover in there on the left hand side. That Kydex wing root panel has a 90 there at the top of that window sill. That window track pinches against that and ties that in. I was originally going to put all that in with some number 4 screws with some nuts on the back side of them, but because I put that fabric on that wing root on the other side, I can't get access to those where the nuts would go on them, so I put nut plates on it. Just put number 4 nut plates on there. That wire bundle runs up that window post there. I had that all tied up nice and neat, and I was kind of wondering about that, whether that was going to be too tight of a bundle or not. And once I put the wing root cover on, I could see it was too tight of a bundle, so I cut off all of the tie wraps and stuff and loosened that up, so that'll fit flat in there now and it won't take up as much room. It was tight bundle and fat, and now I can flatten it out, and it'd be easier to make the cover for that wing post there. I dug out the old one off the other airframe and tried to fit it on there, and I couldn't quite get it to fit over that shell that they've got around that window post, so we'll probably have to do something, make another one there. Same thing, this is the right side here, and this is the original shield that goes on that, and that kind of almost fits in there, but I could probably make it work with a little trim work up here where it meets up against this wing root cover here, the Kydex. But I had that left wing root panel there, the Kydex panel. It was nice and neat when I first formed it. Everything fit real nice. I formed a little tab back here that went around and kind of covered this gap up here where this meets this window panel, and then come back and tie it into there to tie that all together and close in that gap and stuff there. Well, when I molded in these pockets for the headsets jacks, that changed a lot of this stuff. It moved things around quite a bit, and this thing no longer fit in there nice and neat like it did before, and these 2 holes here that were put in that matched up with those nut plates that were on that headliner back here. They go through this panel, through the window panel, and into the headliner. Those didn't line up anymore, so I had to take a little bit of heat on it. I just tipped this down where I could work on it, put some aluminum foil underneath this tab where it goes back here, and then around over the front of it and over this section here so it didn't affect that any, and then put the heat gun on this little tab here and kind of reformed it. It didn't take much. I got it reformed in there to nice to fit in there nice now. It doesn't spring out. It didn't quite fit underneath this, where this headliner comes down here anymore. It didn't fit in there, so kind of molded a little fillet in there. But I had to drill out holes in that thing to fit, to match up with the nut plates. So got a couple of extra holes in there, but black on black on black, I guess it won't show up too bad. But that thing fits on there nice and neat now. I got the headset jacks, the mic and the phone jack mounted there in that pocket that I made in the Kydex wing root panel, and in there right beside it in front is the push to talk switch for the back seat. Here's what it looks like from the wing root side. There's that little pocket and the microphone switch, or a microphone jack, and the headset jack, and then the push to talk switch right in there. Once I drilled those holes out in this pocket, and I'd see how thin that pocket had become, that Kydex had become from pushing that pocket in there. It stretched out pretty thin. Well, I was worried about maybe it breaking with the weight of those jacks being in there vibrating up and down and then pulling them in and out. So I cut a piece of aluminum there and made a little doubler, stuck that in there. So that should help take up any load from those jacks vibrating, and spread the load out when you pull the jacks out over the whole surface of this Kydex here. There's the ones for the front seat. It's thin too, so I'll probably do the same thing with it. This back seat headset jack, I replaced it. I put a new one in there because we've had problems with the headsets not working right. Sometimes the guy's fooling around with them, pulling the jacks in and out and stuff like that. I thought I'd changed it once before, but I can't remember. But it's a lot easier to do it now without the wings on there, without having to reach up inside there, than it is when everything's together and you got to stand on the float and underneath the wing and all of that kind of stuff. So I just put a new one in. I got new jacks for the mic jack and for the front seat headset and mic jack too, but those worked fine. I never had any trouble with either one of those, so I don't think I'm going to change them. Hopefully that'll solve the problems that we were having with the back seat mics or headphones. Mics always worked fine. You'd hear the guy in the back seat, "Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Yeah, I can hear you." We've got both headsets set up. Got the mic jack and the phone jack in the front one there. Again, I put a doubler on that, just like I did the back's one. Well, those are pretty nice and neat there. Then these wires here are for power and ground. I've got a power control unit for the David Clark noise canceling headsets, so I don't have to use the battery pack for it. I just don't have it set up yet, but I run cables here for power and ground. I have to figure out which ones go here on the mic and the headsets there, so we can run that through that thing. I'll have to tap off of this into that box, but I haven't had time to fool with that yet. Again, here's the back. And I've just got that cable tied up there to that fuel line, that vent line right now, to get it out of the way. So I've been getting some of the fairings out to check them out to see which ones would work and not. And I stuck these back windows, the D windows, in to check that out. And I just was looking at this one here. This is the cover for this right hand D window, and that actually will work on there, and the color actually matches up with the color on the airplane. It matches up pretty darn good, I think. So I think I'm going to clean that up and reuse it, so I can cut that windows out and put them in, and then I can put that this trim piece here has a double bend on it. It's got a bend that goes around this window flange right here, this outside portion of it, and it fits in that, and then it bends back 90 degrees, and so that window channel, the weather stripping channel, fits in this groove right here, and that holds that thing right in there. That's kind of a complex little piece, so there's no reason not to use it. There's no corrosion on it. It might be a little bit right up there, so I might clean that up. I'll look at it and see what it looks like when I clean it up a little bit. I got RTV on it that I use to seal up around the windows and stuff there. And anyway, that it's about the only piece that will actually work on there off the other airplane. The only fairing